You're sitting in a meeting. You have an idea. You even rehearse it in your head. But somehow, the moment passes. And when the meeting ends, it feels like no one even noticed you were there. Welcome to Time's Ethan and Claire, the Canadian Workplace Guide. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Claire.
And today, we're talking about something a lot of people quietly experience feeling invisible in meetings. If you're new to Canada, take a breath. You're not alone in this. A lot of newcomers, international students, even early career professionals, they go through this phase where meetings feel a bit confusing. Not because they don't understand the work, but because they're not quite sure times, when times, or times how times to speak.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not even about language, right? It's more like timing, tone, or even confidence.
Exactly. And the tricky part is, it can slowly affect how you see yourself at work. You might start thinking, maybe my ideas aren't that useful, or maybe I should just stay quiet.
Yeah. That feeling can build up over time.
So let's walk through a real situation. There's someone I'll call Daniel. He moved to Canada about a year ago. Smart guy, very capable, solid experience. But in meetings, he barely spoke.
Was it a language thing?
That's what he thought at first. But honestly, his English was totally fine. The issue was more subtle. So one day, his team had a weekly meeting. They were discussing a problem with a client project. Daniel actually had a really practical solution. He even wrote it down beforehand, just to be ready.
That sounds like he was prepared.
He was. So the meeting starts. People are sharing ideas. Daniel is listening, waiting for the right moment. But every time he almost times, speaks, someone else jumps in.
Oh man, yeah, that timing.
Exactly. So he tells himself, okay, next pause. But then the conversation shifts slightly, and he starts thinking, maybe my idea doesn't fit anymore.
So he keeps adjusting in his head?
Yeah, and that's where it gets tricky, because now, instead of sharing, he's analyzing. And the more he analyzes, the less likely he is to speak.
That makes sense. It kind of becomes a loop.
It does. So the meeting goes on, and near the end, someone else suggests something very similar to Daniel's idea. And suddenly, everyone responds positively.
Oof, that one stings.
Yeah, it really does. And after that, Daniel just stopped trying in meetings. He still did good work, but he became quieter and quieter.
Yeah, that can really affect how you see yourself.
So let's unpack this a bit. Why does this happen? One thing I've noticed is, in Canadian workplaces, communication is oftentimes collaborative, but also times fast-moving. People don't always wait for a perfect pause. Sometimes they gently jump in, overlap a little, or speak while the idea is still forming.
So it's less about waiting for your turn and more about joining the flow?
Exactly. And if you come from a culture where meetings are more structured, where you wait to be invited, this style can feel a bit chaotic.
Yeah, or even a bit rude at first.
Right. But here, it's usually not meant that way. It's more like people are building ideas together in real time.
That's interesting. So if you wait too long, the conversation might move on.
That's exactly it. Another layer is self-doubt. When you're in a new environment, you might overthink your idea. You start asking yourself, is this relevant? Is this too basic? Am I saying this correctly?
Yeah, that internal filter gets really strong.
It does. And unfortunately, that filter often blocks ideas that are actually valuable.
I think a lot of people experience that, especially when they're new.
Yeah, it's very common. So, what can actually help? Let's talk about some small practical ways to shift this. Not big changes, just small adjustments.
Yeah, I like that. Something manageable.
First, instead of waiting for a perfect opening, try using a times soft entry phrase. Something like, "Can I add something quickly?" It's simple, and it signals that you'd like to join.
That feels polite, but still confident.
Exactly. Or you could say, "I have a quick thought on that." It doesn't need to be perfect, just enough to step in. Second, don't wait until your idea is fully polished. You could try, "I'm still thinking this through," but that gives you permission to speak times while time's thinking.
Oh, that's interesting. So you don't have to sound completely certain?
Not at all. In fact, that kind of phrasing is very normal here. It shows openness, not weakness. Third, if timing feels hard, you can connect your idea to what someone else said. For example, building on what Sarah mentioned, or "That's similar to something I was thinking."
Ah, so you're not interrupting. You're joining.
Exactly. It blends into the conversation naturally. Let's try a quick micro practice. Imagine someone just shared an idea, and there's a tiny pause. Instead of waiting, you say, "Yeah, that's interesting. I was also thinking we could try." That's it. Short, connected, and natural.
Yeah, that feels doable. Not too heavy.
Fourth, prepare times one sentence, not the whole explanation. Instead of rehearsing everything, just focus on your opening line.
So, like, just getting started?
Exactly. Once you begin, the rest often follows more easily. Fifth, if you miss the moment, it's okay to circle back. You could say, "Hey, just to go back to something earlier."
Oh, I like that. So the opportunity isn't gone?
Not at all. Meetings are more flexible than they seem. Sixth, use supportive language. For example, "This might be a small point, but," or "just to add another angle."
That sounds very Canadian.
Haha, yeah, a little bit. It softens the entry, but still lets you contribute. Let's do one more micro practice. You have an idea, but you're unsure. Try, "I'm not 100% sure, but could we consider?"
Yeah, that takes the pressure off being right.
Exactly. And it invites discussion, not judgment. And finally, if you really struggle in meetings, you can follow up after. A quick message like, "Hey, I had a thought after the meeting."
That's a good safety net.
It is. And over time, it builds your confidence to speak earlier. Now, here's the upgrade. This isn't just about speaking more. It's about shifting how you see your role in a meeting. Instead of thinking, "I need to say something perfect," try thinking, "I'm here to times contribute to the conversation."
So it's less about performance and more about participation.
Exactly. Your value isn't in perfect delivery, it's in sharing perspective. Let's be honest for a moment. Feeling invisible in meetings, it's not just about communication. It can feel personal. You might start wondering if people respect you or if you really belong there.
Yeah, that feeling can be heavy, especially when it happens repeatedly.
It can, but often, it's not that people don't value you. It's just that your voice hasn't found its place in the flow times yet.
Yeah, that yet matters.
It really does. One cultural tip that might help. In many Canadian workplaces, meetings are seen as time's shared space, not something led by one person, but something everyone gently shapes.
So participation is kind of expected, even in small ways?
Exactly. Even short comments, small reactions, they all count. You don't need to dominate the room. Just being present and occasionally adding your voice, that's enough.
That actually feels more approachable.
Yeah, it's about consistency, not volume. So here's something to reflect on. In your next meeting, what's one small way you could step in? Not perfectly, just gently.
Maybe even just one sentence.
Exactly. And if you try it, we'd love to hear how it went. What felt easier? What still felt challenging?
Yeah, those small experiences really matter.
At the end of the day, you're not invisible. You're just learning how to be seen in a new environment.
And that takes time and practice.
It does. But every small step, every small sentence, it builds something.
Yeah, and you don't have to rush it.
Exactly. We'll see you next time.